Can we please talk about UFC Vegas? I want to say 45, Derrick Lewis against Dawkins. Sorry, this has been a bit delayed. There was Christmas and all that. I do have a life, contrary to popular belief, I do have a life. I've been living up and enjoying Christmas and all that. I hope you had a good Christmas and everything. Now we're in that weird limbo between Christmas and New Year's. Currently, as I'm recording this on the Thursday, which is the 30th, which is New Year's Eve, if you want to call it that. And yeah. So I've just been kind of chilling out and relaxing. There hasn't been any fights on, so I thought I'll just have a weekend off and drink myself into oblivion and play a lot of Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose is excellent, by the way, but this isn't a video games podcast, so I'm not going to go into that right now. But what I will go into, if you're interested, is I'll be looking at kind of the bets that I made on UFC Vegas 45. A couple of them were pretty good. A couple of them not so good. Going to break down a couple of those fights just so there's a bit of a recap of the action. I'm also, because obviously it's nearly New Year's, I'm going to do a little bit of a year in review, a few of my favourite knockouts, favourite submissions, and my own personal fighter of the year, as well as some things from the news, and of course some hilarious memes that I found that are MMA related in Troll of the Week. So, let's crack on with the Burt Locker. Let's first of all look at UFC Vegas 45. So we've got the first one I had a bet on was Mr. Serial Killer himself, Jordan Leavitt versus Matt Sales. That was in the 155-pound division. Now I did say going into this, I really like Jordan Leavitt in this fight because he's just a very slick grappler. I mean, his stand-up does have a little bit of work to do, and he's got to do a bit of work in rounding himself out as a fighter. But you know what? He's on a pretty good path. And like I say, I do joke that he's a serial killer. He's so nice. Do you know what I mean? He's so nice. He's got such a nice smile. It's like that Ted Bundy smile, you know? It's just like, where it's like, I don't know, there's something sinister there. Plus, he's so good on the ground. And we saw that against Matt Sales. He got an inverted triangle in round number 2. So my bet on was the submission, which you got plus 350 on that. That was not a bad bet at all. So the inverted triangle round 2 was bang on the money. It was very slick. The way he kind of wrapped it up is because Sales, he kind of forced Sales to kind of go for his legs, and like he had him against the cage, and it wasn't so much he shot him for a double leg. They kind of collapsed down and he kind of pulled him towards him and almost like reverse, he almost like bear hugged him. He almost had him in like a kind of, if they were standing up, it would almost have been like a pile driver, but it wasn't. It was like, and then obviously he got his legs around his neck and carotid artery, and he was tempted to go for an arm as well at one point, but in the end he just got a real good squeeze on, and because I watched a very good breakdown of the submission because the recording missed it off, and then Fight Pass, guys. Fight Pass, could you please make it less trash, please? Could you employ some ex-Netflix employees or something to make it run not shit? Do you know what I mean? The amount of times I go to watch a fight and 3 minutes in it just stops. It just stops, refuses to go any further, and then you go back and it stops at exactly the same point every time. And it's bollocks. Honestly, it only happens on UFC Fight Pass for me. It doesn't happen on any other streaming service. It's just, yeah, come on guys, sort it out. Anyway. So look, the way that Jordan Leavitt cinched that up, I was very, very impressed with. And I think he's a real problem in that division for the future. Then you had Swanson against Darren Elkins in 145 pounds. Now, Swanson just looked like a sniper in there, honestly. I had Swanson by decision because Darren Elkins is really, really tough. He's tough, too tough for his own good, really. It's why they call him the Damage, because he wears so much damage because of all the scar tissue. But Swanson was just so much faster, and you could tell, and he knew it as well, because that's why he kept on going in with his hands down, because he knew that he could just get out of the way of anything that Elkins was throwing, with the exception of one shot that got through, but it didn't really seem to phase Swanson that much. And then the three punch combo kind of started off. He just like cracked him. That kind of sent Elkins on edge, and then yeah, he kept on going through with this left hook that just had no resistance. Joey, literally, no resistance at all on the left hook. He just kept whoop, and it was so quick, and he was back down before Elkins even knew what happened. And then he went in with the spinning kicks as well, and the referee had just seen enough, and it was a good stoppage, to be fair. And but honestly, as good as Cub Swanson looks, it's like, yeah, he looked really good, but Elkins is also not the fastest, and I feel like the matchup was almost designed to kind of make Cub Swanson look good. I mean, he still has to go out there and do it, but yeah, Cub Swanson, if he could do that to some higher ranked people, he's going to be... I'd love to see Cub Swanson go. He's just a very exciting fighter to watch, and I enjoy it. And yeah, and I'm sure we'll see Darren Elkins back again. There's someone that he's somebody that can be thrown to a wolf here and there. That's basically what it gets used for these days, which is, a shame. Bet was terrible though, because I had obviously Swanson by decision, so terrible bet. And Stephen Thompson versus Balam Mohammed. This one I had I had Stephen Thompson to win by decision, which would have been a safe bet had it not been. I mean, God, this fight was dull. I hate to say that, but man, Balam Mohammed he's a bit dull. Like, I don't know, nothing. Thing is, I'll be honest. I'm always honest on this show. Like, if nothing else, I'm at least honest with my opinion. Because look, at the end of the day, like, I've been watching mixed martial arts a long fucking time, but I still consider myself a casual. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with being a casual either. Casuals built the fucking sport. I'll tell you, if it wasn't for MMA casuals, they wouldn't sell any fucking pay-per-views at all. Casuals built the sport. I see the term casual as actually a compliment in a lot of ways, because it's the hardcore fans that will find the streams of every event and then complain about fucking fighter pay when they're not paying for the fucking events. You clowns, you absolute clowns. Anyway, so as a casual fan, I do want to see some action, and I do understand like the grappling. I quite enjoy like watching a good grappling chess match, but this wasn't that really. It was just, grapple, get the takedown, do very little. Grapple, get the takedown, do very little, just doing the absolute bare minimum he could do. No intention of trying to find the finish whatsoever. And I don't really enjoy that fighting style. I'm not going to lie and say that I do. Do you know what I mean? It was just boring. And at the end of the day, look, fair play. You have to go out and get the win. And I respect that in Balam Mohammed. He's found a way to just kind of go out and get the win. But at a certain point, you have to start being spectacular as well if you want to start making those really big paydays. At the end of the day, that's what all these fighters are working towards. They're trying to make themselves an indispensable name so they can get those Conor McGregor paydays, right? That's what they are fighting for. And the thing is, they are risking a lot. They're risking their health. They're risking, their arms and their legs. And some people even say their lives, even though I don't think there's been any deaths in mixed martial arts, not at least in live competition, so far as I'm aware. But yeah, so the thing is people always go on about, but they're risking so much and they don't get compensated for it. It's like, yeah, they're risking it and their reward could be like they get millions, right? And that's why it's a risk, right? If everybody achieved all those millions and millions and millions, it wouldn't be a fucking risk, would it? No. You know I'm right. A little bit of you knows that I'm right. Some of the fighters, they do make dick, but those are the ones where the risk doesn't pay off. The risk can't pay off for everybody. Do you know what I mean? That's the definition of what a risk is. Risk versus reward. Anyway, look, Balam Mohammed at a certain point, if he's going to make himself undeniable if he just keeps on winning, but it only takes one killer to catch him. And that's the problem with that style, because he's not going to really win any fans with that kind of style. And let's face it, if he just gets caught out one time, I think Leon Edwards will beat him in a rematch. If he wants that rematch, honestly, like Leon Edwards was looking so much faster and slicker, and he was just piecing him up before that inadvertent eye poke, which was a shame, because I think that was a shame as well, because I think Leon Edwards was cruising to a win on that fight, in all honesty. I think Balam Mohammed needs to get some more spectacular wins if he wants to get a title shot, or he needs to string together about 3 more and then he's undeniable for a title shot. But at the moment, he doesn't get that shot over Kamaru Usman that he requested when I'm sorry, but you don't get that fight after such a kind of. It was impressive in that you just shut him out and got the win, but there was no urgency there. There was nothing spectacular there. And this is entertainment. This is entertainment first and foremost, anyway. And yeah, so as for Thompson, I don't know what he does there. He says he wants to keep on fighting, but come on, man, he's 38 years old, and that's not that young for a welterweight whose like speed, whose whole style just relies on speed and reactions. So. Look, Balam, he wants either a Leon rematch or he wants to take on Khamzat Chimaev. I don't think either of those fights are particularly good for Balam Mohammed, but fair play to him for wanting to take him. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, he called out Kamaru Usman as well, but he's not getting that fight. I think he could get a Khamzat Chimaev. Or even the Edwards rematch. I don't think Leon Edwards could be, because people keep on insinuating that Leon Edwards is ducking Balam Mohammed. So did you watch that fight? Not being funny, but I mean, I know that no two fights are exactly the same, but Leon Edwards was piecing him up. I think that he wins that fight. And then, so that was a terrible bet because obviously I had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to get the decision, which statistically was not a terrible bet before the fight. But yeah, it didn't come off anyway. So, but then I had Derrick Lewis versus Chris Dawkins at £265. And you know what? I had the knockout for Derrick Lewis at plus 250, which is crazy. That is crazy. The fact that you can get Lewis as an underdog in this one. I do understand why he was an underdog, because look, Dawkins was coming on that massive run of form. He looks really quick and powerful and really good. And Lewis didn't look good against Cyril Gane, but the difference here was confidence, right? A confident Derrick Lewis with no pressure on him, when he hasn't put that pressure on himself, is so dangerous. He just goes out there, and when he just believes in his hands and he just throws without kind of thinking about the consequences, he just sleeps people all over the place. And that's basically what happened here. Derrick Lewis, you could see by his mannerisms, everything, he was just confident. And against Gane, he wasn't confident. Whether it was being in his hometown of Houston that kind of got into his head, whether Cyril Gane has a habit of putting a scare into people with his speed. You see it happen to Derrick Lewis, and you saw it happen to Volkov as well. Volkov is normally very, very heavy on his strikes, and it normally throws a lot of volume. But as soon as he got a taste of Cyril Gane's speed, that put a scare into him. And Gane seems to do that. He did it to Rosenstruik as well. Rosenstruik would have been happy to stand and bang with Cyril Gane if he believed he would get the better of those exchanges. But after he saw how quick Cyril Gane was, he just didn't believe that anymore. And that's what Cyril Gane does to people. He removes their belief in themselves. Can he do that to Francis Ngannou? I'll go into that more in the future because that's coming up. But either way, and that was the difference here. With Derrick Lewis, he just looked confident. He knew that he could go forward, and as quick as Dawkins was, he couldn't get out of the way of all of those bombs. And you know what? He didn't. And it only takes one, and he landed a couple. So yeah, that's it. I mean, so getting plus 250 on Derrick Lewis there, I thought that was just a great bet, and it was a very safe bet as well. And I was very happy with that. Look, Dawkins is going to be back. I wouldn't mind seeing Dawkins take on Tom Aspinall. Now that one of them has had a loss, it's like it's not as much jeopardy on the line. But I want to see Tom Aspinall back in there soon because he's a really good talent. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in the heavyweight division. But look, at the end of the day, yeah, well done to Derrick Lewis. I mean, come on. He's got, 13 knockouts in the UFC now? He's got the most knockouts in UFC history. He's already said, look, I don't want that title shot unless it's a 3-round fight. He seems to prefer being in 3-round fights where there isn't as much on the line, and he just fights to his best at that point. And you know what? He might never hold a belt, but everyone will always remember Derrick Lewis. When he decides to hang it up, for years after, people will remember who the fuck Derrick Lewis was, because he's just got a highlight reel of knockouts, and he's just that kind of character. He's the last of a dying breed, really, and we really just need to appreciate that cat whilst he's still going. He's absolutely fantastic. So let's move on to my 2021 favourite moments. So the knockouts I've got on my list personally are Edson Barboza knocking out Shane Burgos, right? When he knocked him out so quick that Burgos' body had to catch up with his head, and I have never seen that before. And then you had Michael Chandler knockout of Dan Hooker, just for the significance of this one, because look, this is Chandler's first fight in the UFC. There was a lot of hype behind it, and he came in, and boy did he deliver. He delivered a big knockout, and it was the significance of that one more than the spectacularness. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Then you had Rafael Fiziev, one of the Burt Locker favourites is Rafael Fiziev. Keep an eye on that dude. wheel kick knockout of Brad Riddell just a couple of months ago is the 13th wheel kick in UFC history. 13th wheel kick KO in UFC history, I should say. And that's the only one of 2021 that I am aware of. I might be wrong there. And also, look, you can't leave out Francis Ngannou. Do you know, Francis Ngannou's knockout of Stipe Miocic way back in March was one of the most sickening knockouts that I've ever seen. Look at the state of that. Look at how Stipe fell. That is disgusting. All the memes that it spawned as well. Do you know, where like Stipe's holding the guitar and like, that was a sensational knockout, and it's so much more kind of frightening when it comes from a guy that's in the heavyweight division. That guy, like Francis Ngannou, is so big, because don't get me wrong, as much as I like Cyril Gane, if there's one man that can put your lights out, anyone's lights out, it's Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, when he fights confident, he's similar to Derrick Lewis in that respect. When he fights confident, he knocks people out. And he did it right there, capturing the heavyweight title in the UFC. Well done to him. But the winner for me out of that list, my favourite knockout of the year, has to be the Barboza one. It has to be, because I've just never seen such a delay on a knockout catching up with the brain. Burgos is like, he got hit and he kind of carried on fighting or trying to fight, and then his brain was like, no, fuck you, Shane. Fuck you, you're going down. And he just like, woo, and he just slowly, gradually went down. It was bizarre. It's and that Barboza was looking sickeningly good in that fight as well. Really, really good. So then I've got my favourite submissions of the year. I've got Khamzat Chimaev. This one was the entry into it that I really enjoyed as much as anything. Picking up Jiang Liang, dragging him across the octagon, throwing him down and getting that choke was just fantastic. Pure dominance. Now, Charles Oliveira's standing rear naked choke. It probably recency biases in this one as well. But it's just that standing rear naked chokes are very hard to do, because it's just very difficult to stay on your opponent's back like that. And to do that with so much on the line as well against an opponent as good as Dustin Poirier, hats off to him. You've got to put that one in there. And similarly, also I had a bet on that one as well, so that made it extra tasty for me. Along with this one, Glover Teixeira. I had a bet on the Glover Teixeira to get the old submission over Jan Blachowicz, and because I really thought, Johnny, I don't know, I had a feeling, and Teixeira submits a lot of people. When he gets on people's back, he's so good. His top game is crushing, is what I'd like to call it, crushing. And we saw that, and and obviously for him to get the belt after so long in the UFC and at that age, it was a lovely story. And the story, as much as anything, goes into the significance of that submission. There you've got the Jordan Leavitt inverted triangle over Sales that literally just happened. Like, I just went through it. It was brilliant. I don't remember seeing any other inverted triangles this year. And just the way that he set that up as well, it was really quite expertly done. And he's a real problem on the ground. People need to watch out for Jordan Leavitt. And then finally I have Andre Muniz, the technical submission over Ronaldo Jacare Souza, because his arm snapped like a fucking twiglet and it was disgusting. And fair play to Andre Muniz, who is my winner of submission of the year, because look, when you see an arm break like that, it's just impressive. It's like a car crash. You should look away, but you can't, and you want to see it. Do you know what I mean? We're a bit messed up as MMA fans. We love seeing a bit of like the kind of, oh, that's a horrible injury. Oh, I shouldn't be looking at that. Oh, can't look away though. And that was a real moment there. Snapping D'Souza's arm, snapping Jacare's arm like that was bloody impressive, because Jacare Souza, let's not forget, he's an incredible like BJJ like legend at this point, isn't he? More than a black belt, he's a BJJ legend. I think Andre Muniz, he's just submitting people all over the place. He got Eric Anders not long after that as well. Not long ago, should I say? Yeah, watch out for him. He seems to be able to just take anybody down and just snap their arm. And yeah, it's just bloody impressive. Honourable mention. I do want to give an honourable mention out to Mr. Paul Craig for one of the most brilliant upset / TKO / submissions for his win over Jamal Hill. It was absolutely brilliant. It's literally, yeah, it's Because basically, he got him into a triangle and also got the arm. He snapped like his elbow out of the socket, and we all saw it happen. The referee kind of missed it, and then Hill just refused to tap. So then Craig had to just keep on hitting him until the referee saw how like the arm was just like flopping around like woo. It was just absolutely disgusting. And the referee finally stepped in and he called it a TKO. I had a bet on the submission. I was so angry. I feel like I won that bet. The fight was finished because he snapped his arm effectively, and I wanted the submission, god damn it. But fair play to Paul Craig, because he was coming in as a big underdog in that fight, don't forget. Paul Craig has made a whole career out of coming in as an underdog and just snatching those submissions. So, and his stand-up's gotten a lot better. He's just a big dude that's very good at jiu-jitsu, and he's a good character as well. I'm a huge fan of Paul Craig. So honourable mention to Mr. Paul Craig. I salute you, sir. And then we've got my fighter of the year. This is an easy one, guys. It's Charles Oliveira. Easy. Do you know what I mean? There are other candidates that, obviously the Burt Locker Fighter of the Year, I was tempted to give it to Rafael Fiziev just because I like him so much and he's got such a future ahead of him, but I think he's going to be a future Fighter of the Year. But when you look at the journey that Charles Oliveira has been on, do you know what I mean? It's just literally like, he had a bit of a losing streak, right? And then he came back and he's won 10 fights since 2017, right? 10 fight win streak he's on now. 6 submissions, 3 knockouts. Tony Ferguson is the only fighter to survive Charles Oliveira since 2017. That is absolutely unbelievable. He's got the most submissions in UFC history. And then he captured the undisputed lightweight championship of the world. What a story. What a story that is. Because the thing is, people forget how long he's been in there. When he absolutely dominated Tony Ferguson, people thought, there were a lot of people that haven't been watching it for as long as me who were just like, who's this new young Charles Oliveira who's coming in and beating this established star in Tony Ferguson. It's like, Charles Oliveira has been fighting in the UFC since before Tony Ferguson. You realise that? Do you know what I mean? He came in like a year before. I believe it's 2013 was Charles Oliveira, and I think 2014 was Tony Ferguson. And when you look at that, so Charles Oliveira, he's a veteran. He's still not that old, but he is a complete veteran now. And honestly, his game is also so complete that I just don't see anybody in that lightweight division that beats him at the moment. And you know what? I would even start to include Khabib in that conversation, because Charles Oliveira's stand-up has gotten kind of scarily good. And if you go to the ground with Charles Oliveira, you're in his world, and it's literally pick your poison. And that is the kind of fight that that's why there are people that were speculating that Tony Ferguson might actually beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. But you've got all of those attributes and probably a little bit more in Charles Oliveira now. I'm not saying he definitely would beat Khabib, but I'm saying it would be a very interesting matchup. But Khabib's never coming back. So, look, at the end of the day, Khabib's out of the conversation. He retired, he took his belt, he went home. That's fine. I salute you, sir. Well done. Well done on a fantastic career. But right now, the best lightweight in the world, for me, Charles Oliveira, and I don't see anybody beating him anytime soon. I really don't. Do you know what I mean? Watch him get beaten in his first fight in 2022 now. I'm sorry for cursing you, Charles. I really am. I really didn't want to curse you, because I'm a huge fan. But anyway, before I quickly go to the news, I just want to say thank you for all your support over the year. Like, it's been a brilliant year for the Burt Locker. We've gotten more views than we have ever before, and it's been a lot of fun. I hope that you've enjoyed all the content as well. We've been kind of messing around with new different ways of doing things, and doing the clips and everything, which people seem to be enjoying. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for your support. And if I could, continue to get more of your support, if you could please like and share. And if you listen to this on audio only, obviously we do have this on YouTube as well. But if you just listen to this on audio only, I know that we have a couple of listeners, I think in Dallas. So shout out to you guys, Dallas and Virginia. And yeah, so and if you could just let people know that there's this brilliant MMA podcast on by this English guy who is off his fucking meds, who sometimes comes out with some absolutely bizarre shit, and you get to watch his bets go to pieces every week, and it's hilarious. Could you please tell people that so that so I can just get a few more listeners? Yeah, it'd be much appreciated. But yeah, and obviously we do have extra stuff all on the Patreon as well. The Burt Locker on Patreon, and that's another way to support the show. It's only £1 a month. It's an absolute bargain. You do get a load of extra content as well as early access to some picks and like the main events and stuff on there. I'll be reviewing like the stuff that I do on there to put some extra things in place for the Patreon as well. But yeah, overall, thank you for your support, and I would appreciate more support. In a nutshell, is what I'm saying. So yeah. Let's crack on with the news then. So, BJ Penn is running for governor of Hawaii. This might be really old news, but I had no fucking idea. Look at this guy. That's a governor if ever I saw it. Hello, Mr. Governor. Hey there. So, for the prodigy, the governor, I am into that. Look, apparently he wants to end the pandemic. Apparently, he says that oregano oil is the cure. I don't know if that's true. I am not a doctor. But, I mean, who am I to question BJ Penn? The man is an absolute phenom. So, do you know what I mean? If he can get a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in 3 fucking years, then I believe that this guy can end the pandemic. So, I endorse BJ Penn as governor of Hawaii, and I want to see him run for president. Mr. President BJ Penn. Baby J President Penn. Huge fan of that. Beautiful. There we've got this story we saw like a few weeks back. Chael Sonnen apparently battered 5 people. Now the details are pretty scarce on this one, but apparently Chael kicked down a door or something and then easily handled 5 people. That's what she said. And the only thing that we know for sure is that his wife was not one of the 5 victims. I'm sorry, John. I know you wanted it to be, didn't you? You were hoping that it was Chael beating up on his wife. It wasn't. It was Chael getting into a good old-fashioned fisticuffs with 5 people and beating them up. He was not beating his fiancée around in a hotel room and then headbutting a cop car. Oh, I know, John. It was so close, wasn't it? So close. Oh. Anyway, the only thing that we know for sure is that he ended up shirtless. Please see here. It's a lovely shot, very blurry, very hard on the eyes. And we've got, so look, more on this story as it develops, because honestly, nobody seems to know shit about it. Other than, like I said, confirmed, John, the victim was not his wife. Back to you. Anyway, so we've got this article here. Oh my, apparently this guy is it's the headline of this article that kind of irks me slightly, because it says former UFC fighter was a sex worker to fund his UFC career, his MMA career either. Anyway, why does the article call him a former UFC fighter? It was my first question, because he has 3 times as many and more recent fights in Rising. So why doesn't it say current Rising champion? Why are they trying to like slander the UFC? I know what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to say that, oh look, UFC fighters get paid so badly they have to moonlight as sex workers. And actually that's not true. If you read, it's just a clickbaity article. If you read the actual article, that's not what happened. Like, it doesn't say what job he had before he was a martial artist, but in order to try and say to be a martial artist, his current job didn't pay enough money, so he started, giving people hand jobs for like 20,000 yen. I don't know if that's a lot of money. 20,000 yen a tug? That sounds pretty good. He must have, tell you one thing about this guy, former, sex worker who specialised only in hand stuff and was charging 20,000 yen for a tug. I'll bet he's got a hell of a squeeze. Huh? Right? But yeah, no, so in all seriousness, it's just, yeah, it's a ridiculous article, and it's ridiculous that they've even mentioned the UFC, honestly, because it's just kind of, it's almost slander in a way, because they're making the headline read like former UFC fighter has to moonlight as sex worker to fund MMA career, right? They're making it sound like he's a former UFC fighter that got paid so badly that he has to now moonlight as a sex worker. That's what the headline is trying to make people think, right? When actually what happened, before he even started mixed martial arts, his job didn't pay well enough, so he started giving out hand jobs for 20,000 yen a time to save up to start his MMA career. But it doesn't mention, why don't they mention the company that he worked for before them? Why don't they throw them under the bus? And why do they call him an ex-UFC fighter? He had one fight in the UFC, got knocked out, right? But he's had 3 times as many fights in Rising. He's had 10 times as many fights in Pancrase. Why don't they call him former Pancrase sensation and current Rising fighter? Like, used to have to do sex stuff, used to have to, you know, jerk some people off. And it's only hand stuff. Come on. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's laughing about it. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bit of hand stuff. It's fine. Look, at the end of the day, if people want to do what they want to do, if everyone was a consenting adult in that kind of, in that arena, then what's the problem? I don't know what I'm trying to justify. But my main problem is not with the kind of actual thing in the article itself. It's dragging the UFC's name into it. I don't understand why they had to do. What I do is so that they can get more clicks on the article. I do understand that, but I feel like the UFC's public relations department should be having a word with some people at Bloody Elbow. And it wasn't just at Bloody Elbow, MMA Centre, or whoever else. They all had the same article and the same kind of headline wording that the former UFC fighter had to do sex acts to fund their MMA career. It's like, that's not what happened. Do you know what I mean? Apparently he was young and needed the money. And you know what I mean? It was way before. And the thing is, he did all those things way before he was in the UFC. So he wasn't a former UFC fighter at the time he was doing the sex acts, is another point. So, look, at the end of the day, look, he is an adult. People should be allowed to do whatever they need to do. Like, you know, life is hard. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. You know. I wonder how rough his hand. Most fighters have pretty rough hands, and I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm probably thinking too much about that. I'm not going to think about that. But my objection is, why were the UFC's names even involved? I don't even know. Either way, let's move on to Troll of the Week. I'm focusing too much on that one story. So yeah, this one's hilarious. So you've got. Basically, this one's not so much. It's not so much a UFC meme as it is like a martial arts type meme. So I've always wondered this with the Karate Kid. So look, it's inspirational movies be like the villain who practiced all his life versus the hero who did a 2-month crash course. It's like, yeah, why is everyone like kind of having a go at like this kid who's been training his entire life and rooting for this guy who's just fallen into it? He's done a 2-week crash course and then you're rooting for him to win. I don't understand that either. It's a bunch of bollocks. You know what I mean? It's absolutely terrible. And then, what was the next one? Let me find out. I do remember this. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, pride clubs. So you know, people like are always getting poked in the eyes in the UFC, and loads of people always go, yeah, if they use pride gloves, then like then the eye pokes wouldn't happen. And then somebody's taken this said, people keep saying switch to pride gloves will stop eye pokes. And I don't get how, because the pride glove they've got on the left is the rainbow glove to indicate, like, you know, gay pride, the gay pride glove versus like the MMA glove. And it's like, how would that stop eye pokes? That's funny. That is funny. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. And then last but definitely not least, Derrick Lewis really cracked me up. I think it was the day before, I think it was 22nd of December. On the build up to Christmas, I just looked at his Twitter and it's Derrick Lewis and he tweets out, hey, if anyone is alone on Christmas, just let me know. I need to borrow some chairs. And this is why I follow Derrick Lewis on Twitter. And this is why Derrick Lewis is a brilliant fighter. I absolutely love the guy. He's a great fighter. He's a brilliant follower on social media. He just seems like a funny guy. And that's everything I've got time for this week. So it's a slightly longer episode than usual. However, there was no episode last week, so you're welcome, I guess. And yeah, so there's no fights on this weekend, but there are going to be fights on next weekend. I'm back in my like regular kind of schedule now, so I will get another episode out on the Tuesday. Hopefully there'll be some more, some more information on the Chael Sonnen thing by then. Who knows? But either way, some fights will be announced, or someone will say something. Francis Ngannou will say he's leaving the UFC, or some piece of crap. There'll be something for me to rant about and something for me to talk about. But until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible. Have a fucking happy new year, guys, and I will see you next week.